Sometimes I think it's strange how calm I feel around my pet. Not happy, not excited, just calm. That calm hits harder than anything else. I don't think people talk about that enough. Because when you're heartbroken, calm feels rare. It feels expensive, like something you're not supposed to have for free. But then there's this animal, sitting there, breathing, existing, and suddenly your chest isn't tight anymore. That's the part that messes with you. You start wondering why. Why does a dog lying on the floor make me feel safer than a room full of people? Why does a cat sleeping next to me quiet my thoughts faster than any conversation ever did? And then you feel a little embarrassed about it, like maybe you're leaning too hard on something that can't talk back. But you still do it, because after a while, talking back feels overrated. Most people don't realize this, but people who love their pets like humans aren't lonely in the obvious way. They're not always alone. They're just tired. Tired of explaining themselves, tired of misreading tone, tired of realizing halfway through a conversation that the other person isn't really listening. With pets, there's none of that. No performance, no pressure to be interesting, no pressure to be okay. You can sit there in silence for 10 minutes and nothing feels awkward. That alone says a lot. I noticed it after a breakup. Not immediately, more like weeks later when the noise finally faded. People kept asking how I was doing. I kept giving the same answer, I'm fine. But then I'd get home, sit on the floor, and my pet would come over like nothing had changed. No questions, no concern masked as curiosity, no advice, just presence. And presence, it hits differently when you're emotionally worn down. Psychologically, people say loving pets like humans means you're nurturing, emotionally aware, empathetic. Maybe that's true, but I think there's something else underneath that. I think it means you've learned that love doesn't always feel loud. Sometimes it feels quiet, predictable, safe. When you've been hurt, safety becomes attractive in a way it never was before. You stop craving sparks. You stop chasing intensity. You just want something that won't disappear the moment you relax. Pets don't leave because you said the wrong thing. They don't pull away because you needed reassurance. They don't change how they feel about you overnight. And if you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, that consistency feels unreal, almost suspicious. I've caught myself apologizing to my pet before, out loud, for nothing. And then I've just sat there thinking, wow, I never feel the need to defend myself here. That's probably not an accident. People who treat pets like family usually do it because they've experienced emotional unpredictability from humans, hot and cold behavior, mixed signals, affection that came with conditions, so their nervous system learns something. It learns that love doesn't have to hurt to feel real. That's not weakness, that's adaptation. When you humanize a pet, you're not confused about reality. You know they're animals. What you're responding to is how they make you feel in your body. Regulated, grounded, less tense. That's psychology, not sentimentality. Your brain doesn't care where safety comes from. It just knows when it's there. I think that's why people who love their pets deeply tend to be observant. They notice small shifts, small moods. They've learned to read nonverbal cues because at some point, words stopped matching actions. So now they trust behavior more than promises. A pet's behavior is honest. They're happy or they're not. They're tired or they're not. No manipulation, no subtext. And when you've lived through emotional games, that honesty feels grounding. There's also something about routine. Feeding times, walks, sleeping spots. It creates structure when everything else feels messy. After heartbreak, days blur together. Time stretches in weird ways. But pets don't let you disappear completely. They need you to show up, not in a demanding way, just enough. And sometimes being needed gently is the only thing that keeps you from shutting down.
I remember one night sitting on the couch, lights off, phone face down, just staring at nothing. My pet came over, rested their head on my leg, sighed, and fell asleep. That sound, that quiet exhale, I realized my body had been holding its breath all day. No one had said anything comforting, nothing had been fixed, but something shifted. That's the kind of moment people don't post online, because it doesn't look like healing, it just looks like sitting there. People who love their pets like family usually do it because they've connected deeply before, and it cost them. So now they choose relationships that don't demand parts of them they're still rebuilding. There's a softness in that choice, not bitterness, not avoidance, just self-preservation. And yeah, sometimes people joke about it, say things like, it's just a dog or it's just a cat, but those people usually haven't needed quiet companionship to survive a season of their life. They haven't needed something that stayed when everything else felt temporary. Loving a pet like family doesn't mean you've given up on humans. It just means you're selective now. Your heart learned to move slower, to trust patterns, not words. And honestly, that's not sad. It's careful. There's something healing about loving something that doesn't ask you to be different. You don't have to be healed. You don't have to be positive. You don't even have to talk. You just exist together. Late at night, when everything is quiet, that matters more than people admit. I think that's the real psychology behind it. Not loneliness, not obsession.